With just 26 days until the election, we get the bombshell news confirming that Donald J. Trump is choosing Russia over America. And almost as bad is that a prominent Washington biographer, Bob Woodward, sat on this information for almost 4 years. What has come to light in excerpts from Woodward's latest book, War, is that whilst in office, the disgraced former president secretly sent COVID-19 testing machines to Vladimir Putin in the early stages of the pandemic, when such resources were in short supply. The veteran reporter claims that Trump secretly sent Putin a bunch of Abbott point-of-care COVID test machines for his personal use. This morning, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov confirmed these claims. Putin allegedly responded to the gesture by telling Trump, "I don't want you to tell anybody because people will get mad at you." Despite the secrecy of the exchange, Woodward reveals that the two leaders' relationship, controversial during Trump's presidency, has actually continued even after he left office, with the pair reportedly having held as many as 7 private phone calls. Trump's dangerous decision to send COVID testing machines to Vladimir Putin would likely have sparked controversy had it been made public. Recognizing this, Putin interestingly says, "Please don't tell anybody you sent these to me." Controlling Donald Trump, unconcerned, apparently replied, "I don't care. Fine." Putin then said, No, I don't want you to tell anybody because people will get mad at you, not at me. They don't care about me." Just listen to that language. That is Putin controlling Donald Trump, manipulating him, which is very easy to do. Trump lost the 2020 election, but according to Woodward, calls between him and Putin have continued. Earlier this year, Woodward writes that Trump had an aide leave his office at Mar-a-Lago so he could hold a private call with the Russian leader. Concerns about Putin's influence on Trump remain. Robert Mueller, the former FBI director who led the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, recently stated that Russia would attempt to interfere again in 2024. Woodward also recounts an exchange between Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and his Russian counterpart Sergei Shoigu, in which Austin warned Russia against using nuclear weapons, saying this would isolate Russia on the world stage to a degree you Russians cannot fully appreciate. Shoigu responded, "I don't take kindly to being threatened," to which Austin replied, "I don't make threats." Amid the revelations, Woodward also details how the US struggled to convince Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky of Russia's imminent invasion in early 2022. Vice President Kamala Harris reportedly urged Zelensky to prepare a succession plan in case of his capture or death. 2.5 years later, the war continues, with Zelensky still defiant, but Democrats fear that a second Trump presidency could have dire consequences for Ukraine and its allies due to Trump's close personal relationship with Putin and distaste for the sovereign nation of Ukraine. Trump's own insecurity is the reason for his coziness with authoritarian leaders, including Putin. Trump has referred to Putin as very savvy and a strong man, and praised Russia's invasion of Ukraine as genius. How do we get to a point in society and American culture where that is acceptable? Does Trump even know what Putin is? Does he care about Putin's litany of war crimes, breaking the Geneva Convention, undermining international law? Does he care that 21 journalists have been killed since Putin came to power in 2000? In the great majority of cases, no one has been convicted and sentenced for the murders. Are we surprised? And what about the former Russian military intelligence officer Sergei Skripal, who was poisoned along with his daughter in March 2018? Or General Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner mercenary group who died in a plane crash with his top associates? Or Sergei Yushchenkov, a veteran politician and leader of the anti-Kremlin party Liberal Russia, shot in front of his Moscow home? Or the former Russian security agent Alexander Litvinenko, who died in London after being poisoned with radioactive polonium-210 in a sushi bar? Or Natalia Estemirova, the renowned human rights activist who'd been investigating hundreds of suspected rights abuses in Chechnya? She was abducted at home and shot in the head. The latest addition is Alexei Navalny, the imprisoned opposition politician who crusaded against official corruption and led massive anti-Kremlin protests, earning him the ire of Putin, who made a point of not uttering his name in public and eventually murdered him. Or maybe Donald Trump is inspired by Putin winning the rigged Russian election with 87% of the vote again and installing himself as president again for another 6 years. If only Donald Trump had been convicted for extorting Volodymyr Zelensky in 2019 at his first impeachment, we might not be where we are now. And if you don't understand the threat of authoritarianism because you've always assumed democracy is a given in the US, think again. The more power you give Trump, the more Trump will mirror Vladimir Putin, and the more at risk the world is from nuclear despotism. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.